Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Shaun alongside my guy, Mr. Kevin Dent. And Jaevon Toddy will be joining us soon here on episode number 131. We come to you guys tonight on a Tuesday evening, January 4th, as I appreciate my guys for understanding that I had some dinner with my mom last night and was spending time with her while she's coming to visit me, as I'm now living out here in Sonora, no longer in Sacramento. And so here we are, Kevin, back for another episode.
Yeah, man, and I feel like it's been so long since I've been on the pod, man. With the holidays and everything coming up, I've just been extremely busy, as you guys can tell. With the audio-only listeners, you won't get to really get to worship the masterpiece behind me. I've been waiting for Shaun to say something since the pre-meeting to the show. Now that we are here, I finally got to get some frames. Shout out to the missus. She got me some jersey frames for Christmas. My father-in-law was in town. He was able to hang them up for me, and now I get to sit behind. To my right, we got the Super Bowl Zach Ertz jersey, and then we have a signed Hall of Fame Class of 18 Brian Dawkins jersey. So I'm doing well, man. Eagles are flying. Shaun and I's Buckeyes are one game away. And it's funny because I was just talking to Shaun. He's like, man, being an Ohio State fan for the past 10 years has been hard. And a week and a half later, we're going to now be talking about us going to a national championship. So vibes are really high in the Denton household right now. The Kings are finally starting to make me want to watch basketball again. So I just once they come along, my other three teams are doing well. So the Kings are just straggling right now, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the vibes are high in the Dent household. Are you on a laptop or on a desktop? Because if you're on a laptop, you might want to turn it a little bit. Maybe.
Well, it's going to change as soon as Toddy gets here. So I literally thought about doing that.
Yeah. That's
cameras. I'm about to switch it again.
That's a good point. Yeah, when we zoom out, you can see it in its glory. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I didn't really notice it as much when we were just chatting before the show officially started. But then once we went live and as I was doing the intro, I saw it and I thought to myself, is that new? And then you answered my question for me before I could even ask. Obviously I'm a hater at times when it comes to the Eagles, but looks tremendous. Your father-in-law did a great job. Alyssa did a great job in terms of getting you some nice frames. It looks like a lot is written on that Dawkins jersey. Did he write you a book?
No. So it just says, to Kevin, thanks for being an Eagles fan. His signature, God bless. And then the very bottom is his Hall of Fame 18. I don't think I ever told you the story about how I got that, Shaun. It's the craziest story ever. So my sister, freshman year of college at the University of Southern Florida, is roomed with a girl named Bree. No correlation, no nothing. Her last name is Dawkins, but she doesn't even know. So they're going, and Alex didn't come home for Thanksgiving. So Bree invites them to their house. And Alex is like, wow, this is a nice house. And they're walking around and go, oh, your dad's an Eagles fan. He goes, no, my dad played for the Eagles. She goes, oh, who was he? She was like, Brian Dawkins. So the next day she goes, Kevin, you know who Brian Dawkins is? I was like, obviously not the same person you're talking about, because obviously I know who Brian Dawkins is. So whoever you're talking about, I don't know who that is. She goes, no, his roommate's my roommate is his daughter. And I was like, the Brian Dawkins. She goes, yeah. I was like, I know I don't want to intrude, but can you ask for him to sign anything for me? So Shaun, you can see this jersey is really tight and fit. This was a 3X. This was the only thing they had on the NFL shop. Got it, sent it to my sister, and she got a sign and sent it back to me. So that is my prized possession.
Man, that's legendary. I have a signed 49ers folder that's signed by Jerry Rice. And one of my best friends, her dad, got it signed for me when I was like 10, 11 years old. And I don't remember exactly how he ended up getting it signed, but I think he knew a guy who knew Jerry Rice and eventually got it signed for me. And yeah, that's one of my prized possessions, but damn, it would have been much better if it was on a jersey, but maybe there will be a time in the future. And as you said, your Eagles are rolling on to the divisional round. And so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it with our NFL wild card round recap, as we'll just start out in chronological order and go from there. So Saturday afternoon's game is a game that we all got wrong. All four of us. Wait,
whoa,
you
whoa,
picked the Texans?
whoa.
You picked
Yes,
the Texans?
sir. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay. I could have sworn I saw nothing but Chargers.
Records? I said, let's go. That's 6. I was 6-0.
Nice. Okay. Respect. I got you. Okay, so
Well, I was watching TikTok, and they asked CJ Stroud, how does it feel to be an underdog at home? He's like, well, we were an underdog last year to the Browns, and y'all still didn't believe in us. And Wright did that there, Shaun. I said, you know what? That sounds like Coleridge Bernard. That's not CJ talking. That's Coleridge Bernard, and I'm going to ride with them. And during that game, man, it started off real slow. Justin Herbert, man. When you look at the box score, you're going to say Justin Herbert played like shit. If you watch the game, you're going to realize 3 of those picks were all tipped. So, yeah.
Derek Stingley, though.
Deron Bland Jr.
Yeah.
Is what we now call him. But, yeah, for the Chargers to go out there and kind of shit the bed, we knew that they were going to be coming in and be dominant and run the football. They signed Ezekiel Elliott. They had all this noise coming in. Excuse me. I think the question needs to come is Justin Herbert really that guy? Because everyone before every season, we do top 5, top 10, and he's had no success in the NFL. But he's always been in there because of strict talent. Now you get that defense. You get the weapons that you need. Yes, you're lacking a receiver, but no one thought Ladd McConkey was going to be what he was going to be. And everyone thought Quentin Johnson could be the next Megatron. So 2 years later, after grabbing Quentin Johnson, you realize that he's really not that good. You get a second-round pick in Ladd McConkey, and he single-handedly kept that team alive. Mm-hmm. That receiving core has to get better. I was a big advocate for them to trade for T. Higgins because Ladd McConkey's all you got. Quentin Johnson had 0 catches and 5 targets. All 5 were drops. And we've seen him have games where he'll catch 2 and $150 and 2 touchdowns, and everyone's like, Quentin Johnson's back. And, you get to see the memes taken away of him saying his mom don't got to work no more. And you see him come back to life, but Will Dissly, Tusker Fisk, and DJ Chark just aren't going to do it for you. And the Texans defense has been mediocre at best. Some games are kind of like the offense. Some games are going to come out and play really well, and some games are not. But to see them kind of come together, and I will sit here and talk about the Niners culture and how it's shit, but this coach is rallying this team, man, and you can't say it's a fluke. DeMeco Ryan is a legit coach, and it's unfortunate that they now have to play the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll get into that later, but this is a hell of a run for you to go for what they did last year to win a playoff game at home, and for us to say that C.J. Stroud, arguably a top 10 quarterback, to go out there and get a Stephon Diggs. You had the rebirth of Nico Collins and the birth of Tank Dell, and you got Dalton Schultz. You bring in a Joe Mixon, so now you have a solidified run game. The question is, before the season starts, is can they be an AFC contender? Like, they have the roster. C.J. Stroud really came out and just didn't take care of the ball as well as he did the first year. And, yeah, you guys can sit here and say they had film on him, A, B, C, and D, but it's hard, man. You're going into games thinking you're going to have your 3 guys, and I believe the first game, Nico goes down. So they've only had the 3 of them playing maybe once or twice. So all offseason, people are talking about there's too many mouths to feed. How are they going to make it work? And we never really got to see this team fully flourish. And I definitely did not think Daniel Hunter had anything left in the tank. Seeing him in Minnesota and seeing him in Houston, it's like 2 completely different players. So to see this team really rally around, and we talk about the Ravens, or not the Ravens injuries, we talk about all the team's injuries in the NFL, and they're missing their starting safety, Jalen Petrie. So they're just – DeMeco Ryan is willing this team together, and as long as you can give Joe Mixon 25 carries for 125 yards, you're going to be sitting pretty.
Speaking of Joe Mixon, he went off on Rex Ryan after the game because Rex Ryan said that the Texans would be a bye week for the Chargers. When the Texans were the ones who were playing on their home field and were a division winner, even if it's the AFC South. But now joining us is none other than the Podfather, Mr. Jaevon Toddy. How we doing this week, Podfather?
Made it in one piece. Okay, by the way, that ticket I sent you earlier, lost by 1 leg. But that's neither here nor there. We're here now.
That's painful. Well, welcome to the show. We appreciate you for joining us. So full context for me on this first game, which the Texans won 32-12. I actually didn't see a lick of this game. I saw the 20 minutes of highlights on YouTube afterwards because I wanted to try and catch up. But to me, and I missed this game because I went to Fresno on Saturday to attend my friend Eric's funeral, and I'll get to that a little bit later. And it is relevant, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But from what I saw from the highlights, like the Chargers drove down the field nonstop to start the game, and they ended up with a field goal and another field goal, and they failed to capitalize on opportunities. And after they got the first two field goals, that's when Justin Herbert just started throwing it up, and those 4 interceptions began. But then the Texans, they just went on a streak of scoring or they scored 5 straight possessions without the Chargers matching it. Then when the Chargers thought that they were going to get back in the game, as Ladd McConkey gets an 86-yard touchdown pass from Justin Herbert, and Cameron Dicker, the kicker, not only gets his kick blocked, okay, that shit happens, but then he just like watched it float up and just jumped up to try and grab it, and then he tried, but knocked that shit down.
He tried, and he got blown up.
Yeah, it looked to me more like he tried to catch it, but maybe I misunderstood. And also, do you guys know in that situation, if it hits the ground, is it dead or is it a fumble at that?
It's a live ball.
Oh well.
So you would have to pick it up and got hammer time.
All right. Well, I mean, Dicker the kicker did what he could, I guess. And as Kevin said, he got absolutely blown up. He got blown. I don't remember the player who blew him up, but it was the player that I watched that play like 3 times. And it was the player that was standing on the very back end that normally would never do anything on a field goal or extra point attempt because they are behind everyone in the far back. And they're not on that front line trying to at least put a hand up or whatever. And that guy saw the ball up in the air and just ran after Dicker, blew him up, caused the ball to fumble, and then the rest was history. And at that point, like, that was the game right there. The Chargers lost the game early when they failed to capitalize on their early drives when the Texans weren't doing much. But then for that play to happen where it's a 3-point swing, that to me was the end of the game. And then obviously the Texans go on to win 32-12. But Toddy, what were your takeaways from this game?
I mean, kind of just going into the game itself, it just seemed like Herbert and the boys, they came out ready to play. I think on the first 2 drives they scored field goals, weren't able to punch it in at all. But I really think the Chargers defense was playing well early. Like, they were getting pressure on CJ Stroud. Joey Bosa had a couple of sacks. Khalil Mack was causing pressures on the opposite end. And I feel like the turning point in the game was the fumbled snap on like 3rd and 26 when CJ like fumbled the snap and threw the ball for a first down on their side of the field. At that point in time, you were thinking they were going to get a stop, or the Chargers were going to get another stop, and they were going to end up scoring because the field position would end up flipping. They would end up getting good field position, possibly having the ball on their side of the field. I don't really know what happened after that. I mean, the momentum ended up changing after that play, and the Texans scored on that drive. Herbert we gotta start having that conversation about how good this guy Herbert is. Like, how good is Justin Herbert? Is he? I remember a while back on this show, Kevin, he plants these seeds throughout the year. This was about, I think, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. We did a factor cap on, I don't know if it was a factor cap, but it was like, who would you rather have? It was Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. One guy has a playoff win, the other guy doesn't. Now, I understand there's a Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence comparison. There's this guy, that blind resume. But at the same time, you're looking at, okay, one guy does have a playoff win, and it is against the other guy. But the other guy is kind of viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, some people are saying it's top 5. I get he has like a bunch of really, really crazy stats, but we've seen him in 2 playoff games in the past couple of years, has not
Stinkers.
and has thrown multiple interceptions in both of those playoff appearances. Another crazy stat was that Justin Herbert threw more interceptions than he did all year in this one game. That was an insane stat that I saw. I think he only threw 3 picks the whole year. He threw 4 this one game. I think the Chargers defense is solid. I just think the turnovers he threw 2 pick sixes. Like, what do you want me to do? The offense gave up 14 points. You're not going to win that way. So I think what the Chargers need to do in the offseason, I think J.K. Dobbins is definitely solid. You guys would know a lot more about him, him coming from Ohio State. I think they need to cut Quentin Johnston. He has
Still too young, Todd. You got 3 more years with him.
He had as many catches as me, you, and Shaun.
Hey, man. Will Disley going to come up? DJ Chark? They ain't got no other options.
They didn't have Josh Palmer. He was out with an injury in this game, which I thought would have been a little – I don't know if he would have – he's going to catch 3 touchdowns, but I thought he would have been a little bit of a deep threat for them. Lad McConkey, I don't know if he's a number 1 guy. I feel like he'd be a really, really good number 2.
Number 2.
This is the opportunity for you to go out and get perhaps a T. Higgins. I don't know if they'll be able to draft a number 1 in this particular wide receiver draft. I don't know if there's a guy out there that's going to be game-changing number 1 type. Maybe there's 1 or 2, but I don't know if there's going to be a number 1 guy per se in this year's draft class. Herbert just has to be better. He can't turn the ball over. I mean, you can make all these changes, all the changes that I kind of hinted at in the offseason, but Herbert has to be able to not turn the ball over. I mean, I get one of the passes was tipped, but the 3 picks that he threw were like, what are we looking at? He's hitting guys in stride. So it's like Harbaugh comes in year 1. For Chargers fans, to be honest, this is a really good season for you because last year Brandon Staley was your head coach, and you guys were in the gutter. So I mean, going from that to being in the playoffs is just you're head over heels. But I think there's some steps that they have to take moving forward. I mean, that's what Jim Harbaugh does. He's going to change your team. Shaun and I know from experience. I mean, we had Mike Singletary as our head coach, and Mike Singletary. We had Chip Kelly. What was the Shula? Not Shula. It was
Tom Sula, aka Ron Jeremy.
It was one of the worst years ever, and Harbaugh comes in. We go to the NFC Championship. The rest is history. So Chargers fans, you have a lot to look forward to. I just think your quarterback definitely has to play better. I think they need to get better on the outside as far as receiver goes. Defense is solid. Pass rush is solid. The only thing that I would really hint at is just probably try and go buy a receiver. I did see I saw another report that came out about who Jim Harbaugh was interested in drafting. One of them was Joe Alt. The other guy that they were looking at drafting was Brian Thomas Jr. And that was at the number 5 spot. He was one of the receivers. Obviously, we saw what he was able to do in Jacksonville this year, but he wasn't really one of those like 3 guys. It was Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and why am I blanking on the last name? Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Dunze. So those were the 3 guys that he was those were like the top 3 guys that everybody was talking about. But Brian Thomas Jr. was a guy that I wanted on the San Francisco 49ers. It's coveted on the draft pod that we had. When he was drafted, I was sick to my stomach. But that was another guy that Jim Harbaugh was kind of looking at that. Maybe people weren't thinking about being drafted in that top 10 spot. But, I mean, if you're looking at it now, man, might have been the best receiver coming out this year.
It's crazy to hear you guys say that Lad McConkey doesn't have the potential to be a number 1 wide receiver because Toddy, is Malik Neighbors a number one wide receiver? The guy who you say is the best from this class?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Got it. Okay. So if we just do a quick comparison of some statistics real quick, Lad McConkey, Malik Neighbors, because this is stats over politics, right? Lad McConkey, Malik Neighbors, 7 touchdowns each this season. Lad McConkey has more average yards per catch. 14 yards per catch for Lad McConkey, 11 for Malik Neighbors. Okay, Malik Neighbors got him here, 109 receptions. That's a lot. Lad McConkey.
The most by any Giants receiver in Giants history.
The most by any rookie receiver, period, in the NFL history.
I'm just saying. Hey.
But, okay, he's feeding him on, or he's being fed on 5-yard out routes. Cool. But 109 receptions for Malik Neighbors, that's understandable. Like, that's a crazy stat. 82 receptions for Lad McConkey. That's a big difference. But when we look at the receiving yardage, despite a 27 catch disparity between the two, Malik Neighbors, 1,204 yards receiving this year. Lad McConkey, 1,149. You just said definitively, without a shadow of a doubt, that Malik Neighbors is a number one wide receiver in the NFL, but Lad McConkey is a glorified 2. He's a Wes Welker. Like, come on, stats over politics.
Yeah, but Shaun, there's a big number you're not looking at.
Oh, go ahead.
It's the other people in the room. Wan'Dale Robinson had 93 catches.
Yeah.
You know who the second lead in catches were for the Chargers? Unfortunately, it was Quentin Johnson at 55.
Cool, man.
So the catch disparity between 1 and 2 is 30 catches. That's not targets, that's catches. So, put Malik Neighbors on the Chargers, I think it looks the same.
Kevin, I also wanted to add there's just one thing that we're dealing with. So Justin Herbert was Lad McConkey's quarterback. You guys want to know who Malik Neighbors was? Do you guys? Oh yeah, Daniel Jones. He's not even on the team anymore. Got you. Tommy DeVito. He was dealing with that was him. He was throwing the ball. Oh well, Drew Lock, another guy. So he's dealing with 3 different guys who don't push the ball downfield. Now again, I was kind of crapping on Herbert in the last segment a little bit, but he pushes the ball downfield. These 5-yard out routes is all he can get because it's part of the scheme. It's like we only got this amount of time to throw the ball, but I mean, Shador on the way, so maybe we'll see a little bit of a
okay.
Jump. I know Kevin rolls his eyes at that, but
we don't need them in the NFC East, brother. We already got Jaden. We don't need no more young superstars.
Real quickly though, kind of on this same note, since we started talking about the Rookie of the Year race, and this is aside from the Texans and Charger game, but it is relevant, and I just want a yes or no answer. Go around the panel, then we'll move on to the next game for the sake of time. But Toddy, is Jaden Daniels the offensive Rookie of the Year, or is it Malik Neighbors, or is it Brock Bowers?
I think it's the guy who just won me some money.
Jaden Daniels.
So for context, yes.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels.
And Kevin?
It's got to be Jaden, just to see what he's completely transformed this team. And the other positions are very dependent. He's dependent on everybody else. He doesn't look good if his team doesn't look good. So
yeah,
you got to give it to the quarterback, because I mean Brock Bowers got almost. I think Malik Neighbors out targeted him by 2. So as a rookie, you're getting 168 catches or targets. It's really hard to. And then the only other dude who really had a shot was Bo Nix. But you know who didn't have a shot? Ty, Mr. Top 15 quarterback Caleb Williams. That's another story for the time.
Yeah, and speaking of Bo Nix, I revisited one of the clips that we had from about 2 months ago, where it was like, hey, the Broncos, they have the longest playoff drought of a Super Bowl champion at 9 years or whatever, or 8 seasons. Bo Nix was able to break that. And so it is a very competitive Rookie of the Year race on the offensive side this year, which is something that you just love to see, because some years they're just like, I guess he was the best. Give him the award. But this year, there's like 5 guys that could be deserving. So that's always good. As we keep things moving here on episode 131 of Stats Over Politics, getting to the next game from Wild Card Weekend, the other one from Saturday. The Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14. Condolences to Gary and Cordell. Toddy, what did you think about this one?
I expected it to be this way. Kevin and I would go back and forth on pretty much all the games throughout the week, and he was on the fence about who would cover the spread. I think the spread was 9.5 points. So, Kevin, there's not really much to look at here. The Ravens are going to they're going to eviscerate them. They're at home. They're like, but it's 10 points. It's a lot. Divisional point. Played them 3 times. Tough to be a good team multiple times in the year. I was like, well, Kevin, let's just look at the fact that Russell Wilson had let's just go off the fact that the Steelers haven't led a football game in 5 games. It's been basically since almost the end of November, early December. They haven't led a football game. I think the past 3 games, they only had like 19 points through 3 games. I looked at it from, Zay Flowers, Pro Bowl receiver, he's not playing. You got me there. I said, what about Derrick Henry? That always his carries. I think I put it in the group chat when Kevin put up the little picture of Zay Flowers being out. I was like, oh, that just means Derrick Henry is getting 10 more carries than normal. I think he had like 160 something yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar balled out. We saw Mark Andrews. The Ravens are a really well-rounded team. I feel like Lamar is the MVP of the league, and he's going to figure his way out to a victory, especially in the first round of the playoffs. Got a huge test of them ahead, but I thought that this game, just given on what the Steelers have shown us in previous games, I just thought the Ravens would handle the Steelers pretty easily.
Kevin, what did you think about this one? It's so sad watching the Steelers, man. It's sad. They ain't won a playoff game since 2016. They are the only team in the Super Bowl era to have 8 straight winning seasons and 0 playoff wins. The 6-game losing streak in the playoffs, they've been outscored by 73 points. I don't know what Mike Tomlin has to do, but there is no more culture. You know, the Steelers, when we were kids growing up, the Troy Polamalu's, the Ryan Clarks would run through a wall. And these guys, this is just not the same kind of guys, man. You don't have a quarterback. When you don't have a quarterback, you really struggle. With Russell Wilson, he's really a pocket passer. And when you can get him, the run game going, the play action comes, the deep balls come, everything works. But when you run the ball 11 times and get 29 yards, you really can't run the ball at all. And every time, I was texting Toddy, why do they keep running the football? When are they looking at the score and say it's 21-0? Stop running the ball. So it's just really hard to watch. But the Steelers defense did not show up. I thought without Zay Flowers, like Toddy said, they can cover the spread because who the hell is going to throw the ball to? Mark Andrews? Isaiah Likely? Yeah. No one really fears those guys. And like Toddy said, this was a Derrick Henry masterclass. 26 carries, 186 yards with 2 touchdowns. It's very apparent that with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's George Pickens or nothing. You take George Pickens away, and it's nothing. He was able to find the end zone of this game in the second half, and they showed a little bit of life in the third quarter, but Derrick Henry was just too much to hold him. And Lamar Jackson was Lamar Jackson. So 16 of 21, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looks like a great game. And the Steelers didn't convert a single third down in the first half. So it was a very long night for them. But my biggest question is how far can the Ravens go without Zay Flowers? Because against the Steelers, it works. It's going to work against Buffalo. We'll see.
I have the Ravens going all the way to the Super Bowl without Zay Flowers, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. And couple of things about the Steelers, kind of as we write their obituary here. Number one, as you said, Kevin, what else can Mike Tomlin do? Like, I think he just finished his 18th season or something crazy like that with the Steelers. And it's just like, what else can he do? Should he, like, Mike Tomlin's obviously a great coach. Anytime that Kevin trolls you and I, Toddy, saying that the 49ers should fire Kyle Shanahan, I'm always thinking to myself, who are they going to get that's better? Mike Tomlin is, I don't know if I'd necessarily say better because he doesn't win playoff games or he hasn't recently, but he's one of those guys that I would put at the top of the list if the 49ers ever did decide to move on from Kyle Shanahan, which I'm not saying they should do anytime soon because that would be stupid. That would be stupid. But anyways, just what else is there for Mike Tomlin to do with the Steelers? What else can he accomplish with the Steelers? He doesn't have Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have Joe Burrow. And so how long is it going to take him to get one of those guys? Because Kenny Pickett, Mr. Two Gloves, was not the answer. I told Gary that it wasn't the answer from the jump. Maybe it's my bias. Maybe it's my presidency of the Justin Fields fan club. But the thing about this season is, okay, great. The Steelers went to the playoffs. Congratulations. But they flamed out over the last 2 months. And now you're left with, well, Russ isn't the guy long term. Do we bring him back next year? And then you have Justin Fields, who showed potential, but he didn't show enough to make you decide that's our guy. And so now the Steelers, they're left with another quarterback question because at least what it's been over the last 5 years, we saw the Russell Wilson experience for what it is. Started off great and just went down like a roller coaster. And so now the Steelers are left with many questions. Do they keep their Hall of Fame head coach? I mean, it's fair to say Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Fame head coach, right?
Oh, easily.
Okay. And so do they keep their Hall of Fame head coach? Kevin, you saw with the Philadelphia Eagles how they let go of Andy Reid, and then he goes on to win multiple Super Bowls. Yeah, the Eagles did get their one, and so it's not as painful as it would be for Toddy and I if we saw Kyle Shanahan go on to win Super Bowls with someone else. But it's just a lot of questions for the Steelers. And I guess we'll have to wait and see as we keep things moving on to the next game. The Bills beat the Broncos 31-7. And this was a weekend of doinks. The doink at the end of the first half of this game, in which Will Lutz tried to tie the game at 10 going into halftime. And he banks it off of the upright, ricochets back, no good. The Broncos lost the game at that point. But, Kevin, just what did you think of this one overall?
So I'm sitting on the couch with the missus, and Bo Nix comes out, and I thought I was watching Peyton Manning. Completion after completion after completion, then there's a deep bomb to Troy Franklin. I looked at Alyssa, I said, God damn it, we have ourselves a game. That plus 9.5, cake. And then Josh came out, scored a touchdown, 3 and out, scored a touchdown, 3 and out, scored a touchdown, 3 and out. And I said, Alyssa, it's just like that. It's nap time. It's time to get in a quick little power nap before the game. This Bills offense is looking magnificent. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the game, and they gave 100 rushing yards in the first quarter. Playoff history, never been done before. First quarter, 100 yards. And I'm sure it was with about 3-4 minutes left. Ty Johnson. Who? Ty Johnson. 9 carries, 44 yards. James Cook continuing his dominance. 23 carries for 120 yards. This Bills game is legit, man. And if they can get this passing game to continue to grow, continue to be consistent with Amari Cooper, of Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Schultz, Kincaid, so that they have a lot of the right weapons. And if this Bills defense can continue to play the way they are playing, I think the Bills are going to be very scary and will let a lot of people know that it's not just Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Bills do next weekend.
Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, they are a great and underrated duo, in my opinion. But, Toddy, what did you think of the Broncos breaking their playoff drought, but then ultimately losing?
Yeah, similar to the to the Chargers. I felt like the Broncos were kind of a team I would thought that would kind of just be happy to be here. They got a real head coach. Sean Payton turns programs around. Um, Obviously, his success um, in New Orleans, you're kind of hoping that would carry over into Denver. Year one wasn't what it was expected because he couldn't work with Russell. Everything that he could. Just didn't work out the way that he would have hoped. They were in the position to draft a young guy in Bo Nix at 12, and he's able to kind of do what he can because the roster is kind of was hindered due to that Russell Wilson massive contract. And I think they're getting out of that this year, so they're able to maybe spend a little bit more money in free agency. But the Broncos showed a lot of fight this entire year. I don't know if any of us would have picked them to get to the playoffs, given what this roster has been constructed. Even in the regular season, or not the regular season, in the off season, you're hearing a bunch of guys possibly being traded. Guys like Pat Surtain were in trade discussions just because they were trying to get some whatever money that they could scrounge up, just because they were so hindered by that massive contract from Russell Wilson. But you end up keeping Surtain. I think they extended him, if I'm not mistaken. And you get a guy in Bo Nix who's able to make a bunch of plays with his feet and extend plays, and be able to throw the ball downfield. And it showed in that first drive that Kevin was talking about. Troy Franklin, rookie to rookie. They played at Oregon together. Bo Nix to Troy Franklin. I think it's like a NFL like record. There's never been a rookie to rookie touchdown in NFL history, which is pretty insane. So they have a lot to look forward to. I like the running back, Javonte Williams, played at North Carolina, was coming off of an ACL injury, if I'm not mistaken, this past year. You have guys like Cortland Sutton, who I've always thought has been a really solid receiver. He just was kind of stuck in Denver, and you never really get to see too much from him because it was either Russell Wilson or guys like Locke that were throwing the ball, so he kind of got lost in the weeds. And when you got a quarterback of that has some wherewithal and can actually push the ball downfield, 1,000-yard season. So I just think this Denver team has a lot to look forward to going into free agency, going into the draft. You're not going to have that much good of a pick now because you made the playoffs this year. So they had a good season. They have a lot to look forward to. That division is going to always be tough. You got the Chargers, you have the Chiefs now, and what are the Raiders going to look like with whoever they hire and what they do in free agency. So as far as the Bills go, the Bills are kind of just a bowling ball. You with Josh Allen at helm, they can pretty much do anything. I know a bunch of us were talking about this receiving core and what the team would look like without Stephon Diggs, and I think myself, I'm not sure if Kevin did. I think myself and Kevin didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs. But Josh Allen kind of just put his cape on throughout the entire year, and he's neck and neck for the MVP race. And I mean, without him on the team, what will this team look like? I mean, we kind of saw a preview of it with Mitch Trubisky in Week 17, kind of what they would look like. But I mean, without Josh Allen, this team is sub 500 team, probably doesn't even step the playoffs. So for them to kind of get slapped in the face on the first drive of the game, I wasn't really worried about it because I expected if Denver got the ball, they would try to do something early and want to start fast. That was probably the game plan going into it. If they were to, win the coin toss, they get the ball, hopefully go down and score, put some pressure on Josh Allen early and try to make them fight back a little bit. But obviously, I mean, the Bills kind of, I don't know if you guys have seen that one. It's a video. It's an old video of a guy who used to play like on the Jaguars, and he like wanted the equipment manager to hit him in the face, and he was like, "You didn't hit me hard enough. You gotta hit me harder." And then he hits him again, and he starts bleeding, and then he's just like starts screaming. He gets all fired up. That's kind of like what the Bills felt like. Like you got to hit me harder than that. So for the Bills to kind of come out and score, what was it, like 31 unanswered points? It was pretty crazy. So I mean, That was a tune-up for them, I would like to say, because going into next week, obviously they're at home, but they got a team that beat their ass earlier in the year in the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to want some get back for sure. I'm not sure what. Go ahead, Shaun. You can read the comment.
Brandon says, I heard Deontay Johnson was angry Stingley had more receptions than him.
You guys see they cut him today? They cut Deontay Johnson.
They cut him? That's
as they
tough.
should.
Damn.
I mean, dude just got a bad attitude. Like, I understand.
He was on like the Panthers to start the year. He's been on like how many teams has he been on this year? 3?
Yeah.
3 teams in 1 year is crazy work.
2 teams in 3 weeks is even crazier.
How many teams has he been on in 2 years?
Steelers, Panthers, Ravens, Texans, 4.
4 teams in 2 years is just that's hey man, it's time to look in the mirror. We gotta look ourselves in the mirror. Something ain't working.
Well, if you ask Kevin and also Kaz, this next game is the main event of the weekend, at least for the Eagles fan base. Aside from that one nasty Eagles fan who was berating the female Packers fan, and I had to mention that just because
that was crazy.
Like,
I saw that. That was eloquent.
Philly gets a really bad reputation, but like Philly is honestly like a really great sports city. And I talk about this with my friend Matthew all the time because my friend Matthew is a diehard Philadelphia Phillies, Eagles, 76ers fan. And he is just so frustrated all the time about the bad rap that Philly gets. And then you have one loser like that who just exaggerates the narrative. And everyone's like, see, this is what they all are. And it's like, that's not the case. You just have one idiot. And thankfully, Philadelphia Eagles have banned him from attending games.
Oh, they did. That's good.
Yep.
And they're sending the girl Packers gear.
Exactly. And so
that's what I was like. I was like, damn, that's love. Hey, Packers, we just sent you home. You mind sending us a couple signed jerseys, please?
But I honestly thought it was quite classy for Philly to do that and to make up for one loser. But nevertheless, I spent too much time talking about him already. The Eagles beat the Packers 22-10. Kevin, what were your takeaways from your squad advancing?
Man, I was ready for this game, fellas. From the jump, I told Alyssa, I said, it's time to get the Henny out. It's going to be a good game. From the kickoff, putting dudes on their ass, fumbling, and I said, Alyssa, we're going to the Super Bowl. Right here and there. That just solidified it. We're ready to go. And there's been a lot of people reaching out to me saying, Kevin, Jalen didn't do this. Jalen didn't do that. Well, you know who did do all this and all that? Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, 4 picks, 2 guys that everyone would say before this season, or still might say it, that they're both better than Jalen Hurts.
$50 million guys, too.
Jalen Hurts is moving on in the playoffs. And Kevin, look at the stats. 13 for 21, 131 catches, or 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. You guys have to understand, Kellen Moore has literally had to turn shit into pizza for 3 weeks. 2 games with Kenny Pickett and 1 game with Tanner McKee. He has had to turn this offense to elementary school routes. And I can definitely see that he kind of carried that over into the playoffs because I don't know if you saw, Shaun, but Dan Orlovsky posted a video of all the passing plays, and you would have thought the Packers were in the huddle. Every route they're on, they're doing everything, and people want to say A.J. Brown had 1 catch, Devontae Smith had 4 catches, Dallas Goedert had 4, and at the end of the day, we won the game. And can Jalen Hurts go out there and throw for 356, 3 touchdowns, and 23 completions? That's a familiar game because I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers game where he came out and said, you like that? Or is this what you've been waiting for? This is what you guys wanted? We see him do it. And if we need to go out there and have a shootout, we can shoot them with the best. Hands down. We have one of the best offenses in the game. And for all the people that are sending me the A.J. Brown reading his book thing, he's done it all season. All season. There's been games where he's had 125 yards, and he's sitting there reading his book. It's easy to point fingers. all I've heard on all the talking heads is Jalen Hurts this, Jalen Hurts this. Everyone gives Jordan Love a pass because they don't have a number one receiver. Everyone gives Justin Herbert a pass because he's a pretty boy from Oregon. I get it. You guys just don't like the Eagles, and that's fine. Let me get off the offense. This defense. I remember vividly when we did the preseason show, and I said we're getting the defensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, and Toddy said, and I told Toddy, top 5 offense, top 5 defense, ladies and gentlemen. He laughed in my face. Said, Kevin, you guys lost 6 games in a row. You think you're going to turn it around? I said, yes, we're going to turn it around. And we did. Forcing 4 turnovers. Guantanamo Bay travels to the playoffs, baby. First career pick. We had Darius Slay get a pick. We're really making things happen. And for us to give up 10 points on 11 drives, the Packers were averaging 28 points per game, the 10th best offense in the NFL. They came to Philly, and, it just couldn't work. So you got to tip your hat to Vic Fangio and Nolan Smith. Everyone thought Nolan Smith was just a waste of a first-round pick. For him to get 2 sacks in his first playoff start, we're looking pretty good. And now, unfortunately, we have to end the Rams Disney Channel movie, and that's just kind of is. It is what it is.
For our audio,
I'm sorry.
Shaun brought out a book called Self-Discipline, and he was reading it while Kevin was going through his soliloquy. Very reminiscent of what was going on the sidelines. I guess I'll just kind of get into the game a little bit. From the first play of the game, bam, fumble. I was rooting for the Eagles because I was financially invested in them.
You can't say you're a fan, Toddy.
I had financial investment. So when they kind of just jumped on him right in the game, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. They scored early. Kevin and I were talking about the guy that they got from the Commanders.
Jahan Dotson.
Mr. Jahan Dotson showed up, came out of nowhere. You would have thought that there was a typo in the stat sheet when you saw a touchdown in his name. But I thought the Eagles defense played really well. They were able to force, 4 turnovers, Kev?
Yes, sir.
I thought that the Eagles' lead should have been a lot more off of those 4 turnovers because they had really good field position, I thought, after those turnovers, but weren't really able to score touchdowns. I feel like that's my only gripe with them. They looked pretty fresh. Jalen Hurts came out. I don't think he played bad necessarily. I just thought he didn't make the most of his opportunities when they were given all those turnovers pretty much. So Saquon did what Saquon does. I feel like this was more of a run. It was smash mouth football for the Eagles. They were pretty much able to push their D line back, and Saquon was able to do what he wanted to do. Saquon could have had 180, almost 200 yards if he would have broke that touchdown that he had nothing but green grass in front of him, but decided to be a gentleman, have a good sportsmanship, I guess, and slide. But there's half of the world was screaming at him because he was the most bet person to score a touchdown, and he slid at the end. So, unfortunately, I did not diverge into investing into Saquon Barkley on scoring a touchdown. I'm glad I didn't, but he played his ass off. Obviously, we saw, Shaun was just reading a book. A.J. Brown only had 1 catch for 10 yards. It's not nothing, but it's something. I think it's just something that's just him not getting the ball, speaking to the media, saying, this is when I'm going to come back. This is when I'm going to play. Kevin has mentioned that several times on the podcast about him being Adam Schefter and diagnosing himself for certain injuries. But I think it's just something, that you look at. It's not nothing. I feel like it's something to kind of look at. He didn't have anything. There was like an old video that came out about him just being unhappy and not getting the balls, an old video. But I do think going forward, you're going to need to find ways to get A.J. Brown the ball if you want to continue to win playoff games. Jordan Love, going to the Packer side of things, didn't play well. We've kind of seen it. Last year he had a hell of a game against the Cowboys. They came to San Francisco. He threw multiple interceptions. Another multi-interception game. Now I get he did have some injuries to his receivers, but that was towards the end of the game. Like they had about 3 full quarters where they weren't really able to do anything against that Eagles defense. So I want to give hats off to Vic Fangio. Called a hell of a game. I think, and most Eagle fans can agree with me, that Kellen Moore has to be better on his side of calling plays. I think getting Saquon the ball should be a priority, but you got guys like Devontae Smith. I mean, even Dallas Goedert, when he got the ball, he scored a touchdown. Like, let's try. You got a bunch of guys on offense. Let's figure out a way to kind of slice the pie up and let's get these guys the ball. And that's gonna automatically open up the run game anyway. Your run game was working regardless of you not having that good of a passing attack against a solid Packers defense. But when everything's firing on all cylinders, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. And I don't know how much better the Rams are than the Packers going into it. Could I argue their quarterback's better? Perhaps. Has more experience, I would say. Has a Super Bowl ring, obviously. I'm not sure how good they're deep. I mean, we kind of saw this move before when they played against the Rams in LA. I mean, Kevin was at the game, so he was pretty much firsthand with it. So the line for that game, the Rams Eagles game, it was at 5.5. It's now at 6.5. So
might get up to 9 by Sunday.
I don't know if it'll get to that much, but they're basically saying they're a touchdown better, and I'm not going to argue with that. I think the line's right. I would like for it to drop, but for gambling purposes. But I think that it's right. It's where it should be at. So yeah, I thought the Eagles I think the Eagles they got away with some stuff because their team's so good. Like they were able to get a bunch of turnovers, but they weren't really scoring off of those turnovers. But I think they were able to do that. They were able to get by doing such thing this week.
Do 3 points not count as scoring?
I mean, Kevin, you would like from
you said scoring. I'm just saying if someone didn't know what you were talking about,
that's not going to work going forward. That's all I'm saying. You might be able to get away with it again this week, but when you're going up against Lions,
Toddy, ask me how many turnovers we forced in the last 3 weeks.
Probably a bunch.
17.
It's a lot.
Isn't the point of the game to score more points than the other team? Whether you're by 55 or you win by 1.
You want these teams to hang around, especially in the playoffs. You don't want to leave that back door open. You've seen when you guys leave the back door open, bad things happen.
I mean, Kenny Pig is not coming out there, brother, so we're going to be all right.
Perhaps you're right.
Well, one thing that I'll say that the Rams are definitively better than the Packers at is with their wide receiver core, clearly, because they have 2 guys who could be considered number 1 options. Ladd McConkey may not be a number 1 option, but Cooper Kupp has already proven that he is in the NFL. He's probably on the back end of that just because he's getting older. But Puka Nacua as well has proven that he has the potential. I don't know if I would say that Puka is a bona fide number 1 guy. And I say that just because when I think of number 1 guys, I think of Jamar Chase, I think of Justin Jefferson. And so, Puka can't put himself in that discussion yet, but they both are very talented receivers. And that's something that the Packers just lacked. Josh Jacobs couldn't do everything for the Packers. But Josh Jacobs had a hell of a season. I was really happy to see him have that kind of a season after kind of being in purgatory in Las Vegas. And so now the Packers are moving on to Cancun as the Eagles move on to the divisional round. And condolences to Khalil and all of the cheeseheads who have now seen their season come to an end. Arguably the most exciting game of the weekend. The Commanders beat the Buccaneers 23-20, Kevin.
Left hand up, Kev.
Dog, this game. Another game that I called, and a lot of people said it was crazy. Jaden Daniels, man, has just turned this franchise over. They haven't won a playoff game since 2005, I believe, Toddy.
20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years to the day. And to have a guy like Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn has come from a winning culture. Unfortunately, we all hate the Cowboys. You can't say they don't have a winning culture. And for him to now run the ship, and for, like Toddy mentioned, with Cortland Sutton, he's always been a good guy. He's always been really good. The quarterback situation has been shit. That when he said that the person that I thought of was Terry McLaurin, he's putting up 1,000-yard receivers with Tyler Heineke, Kirk Cousins. Now Jaden Daniels needs to get the same kind of respect that we gave to Jordan Love, to C.J. Stroud last year, and we wanted to say they were top 10 quarterbacks. And Jaden Daniels is doing it now, and now the biggest thing around him is to see what he can do next year, see if he can follow up this amazing rookie campaign. But this dude has changed this team's trajectory. And I know everyone's going to say if Baker doesn't fumble, it's a different game, but Baker fumbled. Jaden Daniels takes care of the ball. And a crazy stat, they lead the percentage in fourth down in the NFL at 87% on fourth down. So they're up there like the Lions. Dan Quinn's going to say, we're going to put it all out there. We're going to go out there and we're going to try to win this game. And for Dan Quinn to just flourish and embody this confidence into these guys, like a D'Amico Ryan situation intended in Houston, just give these guys to believe that they can do something. And now people are saying that Washington is a place that free agents want to go because of this culture that they are now building. So I'm really excited, as an NFC East guy, to have another team continue to play. I am screaming from the rooftops, all the Commanders fans, I need y'all to win so we can beat the fuck out of y'all since y'all thought it was good after beating Two Glove Kenny. So handle y'all business, head back up to the link, and we'll send you home.
Left hand up.
Toddy, what did you think about this game? As Jaden Daniels, who won you money, he ends up beating the Buccaneers in this one 23-20 in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this was a very exciting game. I do want to go back all the way to our preview season. I did say the Commanders were going to be a playoff team. I thought Jaden
nailed it.
I thought Jaden did. I was one for two. I did say that Jaden Daniels was going to be able to turn the franchise around. I just saw him play in college and it was like, there's no way that this guy is not going to be good in the NFL. When you're giving him Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn, I thought there was some stability there. Obviously, there's new ownership. So I feel like the whole organization has changed. Adam Peters is the GM, former assistant GM for the San Francisco 49ers. So I knew he was in good hands. It's not the same Commanders team that we're kind of accustomed to seeing under Dan Schneider. Obviously, under new management, Magic Johnson is a minority stake owner in the Commanders. So you know that their organization, the front office, is top tier. And going into the year, you're like, okay, they got to kind of let Jaden rock out. And he found a connection with Terry McLaurin. And, him being mobile is going to open up the passing game. It's going to open up. They run the read option a lot. So you're going to have to count for Jaden Daniels as a rusher. And I feel like that plays a huge role into third and short, fourth and short, which is why Kevin, he mentioned the stat that they lead the NFL in fourth down conversions, because you have to account for Jaden Daniels and his legs, because he's going to be able to, he can kill you with his arm. He's going to be able to kill you with his leg. And we saw kind of on that game sealing first down, the lineman was grabbing at his towel because he couldn't, he's like running all over the place. So Jaden Daniels definitely he's entering that conversation, top 10, like he's one of those guys. He's winning playoff games as a rookie. He's doing things that, other quarterbacks weren't able to do in their rookie season. And, just imagine this team when guys are going to want to go to Washington now because of Jaden Daniels. Can you imagine him when they start to load up on – he's literally – look at his guys that he's throwing the ball to. DM Brown. Have any of you guys ever heard of him before the season started? Couldn't tell you that I ever heard of him.
McCaffrey, they got a whole bunch of
Zacchaeus, who are these guys?
Noah Brown.
Zacchaeus.
Like, who are these guys he's throwing the ball to? It's like
it's McCaffrey's brother. McCaffrey's brother, who used to be a quarterback.
This is literally going to be a place where, and like, DC's a really nice place to live. So, nation's capital. It's just been a shit franchise for most of my adult life, my whole entire life almost. So, when you factor in that Jaden Daniels is literally turning the franchise around as we speak, and they're on a playoff run, they have a chance to get to the NFC Championship. They're a game away from the NFC Championship game. So, and guess what, Kev? They're in your division. As Kevin already mentioned, we don't need any more superstar quarterbacks in our division. This guy Jaden, man, he's different. And I'll say one thing about the Bucks. I was talking about this acquisition for the Commanders with Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore was getting his ass toasted throughout the first half. And I was hearing them talk about it, and they asked him, I think Chris Collinsworth asked him before the game or like sometime throughout the week, they're like, what's the game plan for Mike Evans? Like, what are you guys going to do? Are you guys going to double him? Or this because obviously Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans have history, going back for his time with the Saints, had a bunch of battles going back and forth. There've been times where they've been ejected, fights, punches were being thrown. Like it's a whole thing. And they asked him about it, and he was like, there's no way in hell I'm not guarding him one-on-one. Well, that lasted about a half because those first couple of drives, Mike Evans was doing whatever he wanted. It was barbecue chicken, as our guy Shaq said, pretty much every time he lined up across him. And I have to give props to Dan Quinn for adjusting because, hey, man, I get that you want to guard him, you want to follow him one-on-one. That shit ain't working. So I like what they did for the rest of the game, kind of doubling, bracketing, putting him in bracket coverage, and not allowing Mike Evans to get free. I thought Bucky Irving played his ass off. He's another guy that I kind of called throughout the season. Saw him play at Oregon his last year there. And he was my last pick in the draft for my fantasy team. And a lot of people just let him, team's not called Baltimore University for no reason. I do think – I thought Baker played solid. I mean, he didn't play bad. I feel like the only blemish was really the fumble, and it was costly. And you could say it kind of costed him the game a little bit, but it was not good. And just the way how the game ended, Dan Gonzalez, just you got to tip your cap to him. But God, man, he was sweating bullets. That entire game, he was fixing his hair 1,000 times. I think I saw something that he had OCD, so he was taking his helmet off. It was very.
The fucking hair doesn't move. It just freaking keeps
it was very, very nerve-wracking to watch him go out there, and I'm like, I got money on the line, and he's out there freaking tweaking out there, and I'm just like, brother, I need you to get it together here. Just go out there, do what you're paid to do, and he did it. It's very rare that we see doinks go in. Usually when the ball doinks, it's usually game over from there on out. Could you imagine that game goes into overtime? My goodness.
I was so happy for the Commanders fan when the Commanders fans for it to actually go in because I have one sibling. He's a half brother, and so my half brother's stepdad is a diehard Commanders fan, and he's the only Commanders fan I've known all my life. And he's an old white man, so he still calls them the former name. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I don't care. They're the Redskins. They're the Redskins. I don't care. And then now one of my coworkers in Sonora, his name is Guy, and he is a diehard Washington fan as well. And I was just thinking about both of them as I was watching the game. That I was just so happy that they were able to be happy and that it actually doinked in because those Commanders fans, they've gone through so much. And even if the road ends here, I mean, it was a hell of a season and it's a building block for the future. My favorite part about it was when I saw Magic Johnson talking to the media after the game, and Magic Johnson is a minority owner in the Washington Commanders. And he was standing there with his arm around Josh Harris, who is now the new majority owner who took over for Dan Snyder. And Magic's trying to give so much credit to Harris, and Harris is almost uncomfortable with getting the credit. And that is the polar opposite of Dan Snyder. And so it's a new dawn. It's a new day in DC. And I'm happy for all of the Commanders fans. Now, the last game that we're going to get to is the Rams beating the Vikings 27-9. And I wanted to start out by talking about this one because Uncle Manny earlier said, Shaun, sorry for the loss of your friend. I really appreciate that, Uncle Manny. And the reason why I wanted to start this off is so on Saturday, I went to Fresno for my friend Eric's funeral. He was a friend that I met in college at the State Hornet on the student newspaper at Sac State. We became good friends. In all honesty, we weren't best friends or anything. The last time I saw him, we went to a Sac State football game together in fall 2023, but we would text all throughout 2024, and we talked more than we ever did. He would always send me stupid, funny texts that would just make me laugh. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Eric on today's podcast. But why this is relevant to what we're going to talk about right now is Eric is and was a Los Angeles Rams fan. He absolutely loved to troll all of his 49er fan friends, even though the 49ers owned the Rams for years. And throughout our entire friendship, or most of our friendship, I was able to troll him and say, 49ers own them. Like, you can say whatever you want. The 49ers own them, except for that 2021 NFC Championship game. And I was so frustrated by that NFC Championship game because during that whole streak, the 49ers lost the one game that truly mattered, that had championship implications on the line. And now looking back on it, I'm glad that the Rams won that game because my friend was able to see his team win a Super Bowl before he ultimately he passed away at 28 years old because he had meningitis. And so it was just a very sad situation. And now my point in saying all this is I wanted to give a shout out to Eric, honor my friend, but also I can't believe I'm saying this as a 49ers fan, and it kind of turns my stomach to even think it, but I'm rooting for the Rams to win the Super Bowl this year. Like I'm rooting for them because I want to see them win the Super Bowl in my friend's honor. They are going to be running into a behemoth. As I have said numerous times, like the Eagles are elite. And so it's going to be tough for the Rams, but we saw them take inspiration from all the tragedy that's been going on in Southern California with the fires. And they absolutely beat the brakes off of the Vikings 27-19 yesterday. And the last thing that I'll say about this is that I totally forgot coming into this game that Kevin O'Connell was a part of the Sean McVay coaching tree. And if I had remembered that, I probably would have picked the Rams like I know Kevin did. Toddy, I believe you picked the Rams as well. And so I probably would have jumped on that Rams bandwagon and picked against the Vikings if I had remembered that, but I didn't. And so, Kevin, when you see me picking the Rams against the Eagles this week, there's definitely a heavy dose of politicking. I'd say like 50% politicking and Hayden, but also 50% for Eric, that I'm just going to rock with the Rams for the rest of this run. And so Rams beat the Vikings 27-9 in Arizona, no less. But Kevin, what were your observations for your team's future opponent?
You can definitely tell that it's a copycat league. The Rams defensive coordinator saw the Sunday night terror game, Tower of Terror game that Sam Darnold played against the Lions. Blitzing them nonstop and saying, we're going to lock up outside and we're going to dare Sam Darnold to beat us. Coming into this game, everyone knows my good friend Wes. He's feeling real good. He's Kevin, we're going to see you guys in a couple weeks. I'm like, man, you got Sam Darnold. I don't know. I don't know how good. I don't know how many dances you guys can pull out to make it to the next round. You gotta win football games to make it to the next round. And unfortunately, it just ran into a buzzsaw. This Rams defense is really legit. And I know I'm going to say a lot of things about them in the Eagles game and how I don't think they're going to be any good, but they made the Vikings look like a JV team out there. 9 sacks is insane. And I know that a lot of people are going to say that when Sam Darnold threw the ball down, it should have been an interception. That changes the whole game. I get it. It was only 10-3 at that point. Sam Darnold cost himself $50 million. They used to say Dennis Schroeder was crazy for walking away from 80. Sam Darnold just pissed away 50. And now the question is, who's going to take a chance on Sam Darnold? Because the Vikings are like, you know what? 14 wins, most in history. Thank you so much. But there's the door. We got J.J. McCarthy coming in. Do we think J.J. McCarthy's going to be any good? Only time will tell. Sam Darnold is very young. He's only 27 years old. But for him to go out there and have the best season of his life and go out there in his very first playoff game and kind of turn back to Sam Darnold that we all know and love, it hurt to see. But unfortunately, it's a copycat league, and now every time someone plays Sam Darnold, they're going to blitz him and see if he can handle it because he's holding on to the ball for too long and he is throwing the ball away, can't take care of the ball, he's fumbling, and you just can't do that. And like he said in his game presser, the better team won today, and it just wasn't them, unfortunately.
Toddy, what was your observations from seeing our division rival absolutely handle the Vikings?
Sam Darnold, you are a Las Vegas Raider. No, I just
yes.
Yes, the Rams.
Not the Rams. I think Kevin kind of pointed it out. You saw early, Sam Darnold was not able to handle the pressure, holding the ball on for too long. I mean, I think the Rams set like a record with like 9 sacks in a playoff game. That's insane. I thought what they should have done, once they saw that Darnold wasn't really handling the pressure well, they should have, basically got rid of, eliminating the pressure situation by just getting quick passes to guys like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, one of the best duos and wide receiver duos in the league. But that wasn't really the case. The Rams were able to force turnovers. We saw Jared Verse, who is probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, as me and Kevin have, chatted about a couple of times. I thought he made an impact on the game. I thought Stafford, Puka looked like as good as it's been the entire season. Haven't really seen too much of Cooper Kupp this year. They're going to need him for sure next week. But I think, this Rams team was able to capitalize off turnovers, and they were able to pressure Sam Darnold. And I thought that was pretty much the key in the game. I thought coaching was pretty neck and neck, but I would have gave the, advantage to McVay. I thought the Rams had the quarterback advantage. I thought going into the game, the Vikings had the better defense, just based off what I've seen throughout the entire year. I thought the Rams were playing really well as of late, but I thought as the year as a whole, the Vikings were playing better on defense. But I mean, it's tough. Kind of going back to the Chargers game, or even the Eagles game, when your defense is able to force multiple turnovers, you're going to be heavily favored to win those games. I think it's tough, man, because we saw Sam Darnold play really well the entire year, 14 wins, had a chance to get the number 1 seed, and, they didn't really perform. And it kind of sucks, too, because we kind of saw it. It all kind of came falling down in 2 weeks. Last week, he kind of shit the bed, and it carried over into this week, and he kind of shit the bed. I even said it on before last week's game. On last week's pod, we were kind of talking about Sam Darnold and what it's going to look like. Like, if he plays like he did against the Lions, he's going to lose a lot of money. Now, $50 million is insane. I never thought he would have even gotten, even if he played well in both of these games, I still don't think he would have gotten 50 on the open market. He's going to get closer to a Baker contract. That's kind of what the contract I was thinking he would get. Baker's getting 30 plus a year, which is solid. But I think that's the range he's going to be. I think teams like the Raiders, maybe the Saints, Titans, yeah, maybe the Giants. I'm not sure. The Jets reunion.
Back to the Jets.
But I mean,
That'd be hilarious.
Those are like the teams that are out there. Maybe guys that dropped a quarterback, bridge guy. That's the type of lane that he's in.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. As that now concludes our NFL wildcard round recap. Guys, we are short for time, so we don't have any time to preview and make our picks for the divisional round. However, stay tuned to our social media pages at Stats Over Politics on Instagram and TikTok, and at Stats or Politics on X. So then that way you can see our picks for the divisional round, because the content, it's going to continue to go out there, and you got to know who to follow, because Kevin was 6-0 in the wild card round. So I might tail
Kevin, how much money did you make this weekend? You must be a rich man.
I lost money.
Oh, pain. That is painful.
Give me a parlay he even put in, Shaun, and I lost money on it. So
that is painful. So the Texans play at the Chiefs Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Commanders at Lions Saturday at 5 p.m. Rams at Eagles Sunday at noon. Ravens at Bills Sunday at 3:30. And we've had a couple transactions with NFL coaches and GMs this past week. As last week I was saying, I hope the Raiders give Antonio Pierce a chance. They said, just kidding, that's not going to happen. They fired Antonio Pierce. Then the next day, after they said that they were going to keep their general manager, Tom Telesco, they fired him too. The Patriots are having a homecoming as they hired Mike Vrabel as the next head coach. And today, it was official that yesterday, it was official that the Cowboys and head coach Mike McCarthy parted ways after 5 seasons as they were unable to come to a new contract. But the Cowboys decided to be petty on the way out, especially Jerry Jones, as he did not let Mike McCarthy interview for the Chicago Bears job, which he's now going to do 2 days from now. So good job, Jerry Jones. You really prevented him from doing that. It just doesn't make sense to me. So now, with the college football playoff semifinals, the Ohio State Buckeyes are moving on to the championship as they beat the Texas Longhorns. And then on the other side, we had Notre Dame beating Penn State, as Ohio State beat Texas 28-14. But that final score really wasn't indicative of how this game went, because it easily could have been 21-21 if not for Captain Jack Sawyer. Thank you, Captain Jack. We appreciate you. And then Notre Dame beat Penn State 27-24 on a game-winning field goal from the guy that transferred from South Carolina. Congratulations to him. But as I said to my friend Keith, this is before Ohio State even played Texas. I was saying going into it, Toddy, you and I talked about it last week, that Ohio State, Texas, to me, was the national championship. Whoever won between Penn State and Notre Dame, you're going to end up as the runner-up. But anyways, Ohio State eventually ends up moving on as well. And to me, Notre Dame, when they beat Penn State, they earned themselves the right to get absolutely trounced in another national championship game, just like they did against Alabama like a decade ago. So now, guys, let's make our picks for that championship game on Monday night, as the Ohio State Buckeyes, the 8-seed Buckeyes, take on the 7-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Monday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Toddy, we know that 2/3 of this panel, as you are insinuating with your arms, are Ohio State fans. Kevin, OH.
I-O, baby.
Yes, sir. So
you guys open as 10-point favorites. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And so, Jaevon, as our only unbiased person on the panel, because your Trojans didn't even sniff the playoffs this year,
Thank you.
Who do you got in the you're very welcome, in the championship, and why?
I got Ohio State. I think you guys are just a better team. I get Notre Dame. They played guys like Georgia. Georgia had a backup quarterback. They played Penn State, who just seemed to just forget to figure out how to throw the ball to a wide receiver. Drew Aller. You guys are at It's 8-point spread now, which is a little bit more enticing. That looks easy. I did see a stat that Notre Dame has covered the spread in the last 11 games, but I mean, they haven't played a team like Ohio State, who was also undefeated against the spread in the playoffs. I mean, I'm just looking at it from the talent perspective. Oh, and plus Notre Dame's way more beat up. They lost another offensive lineman. They're cycling through O lineman throughout the whole entire playoff. Jeremiah Love has been banged up. Ohio State's been a little bit banged up too, but they still got guys like, I don't know, Jeremiah Smith, Mecca Ibuka. Travion Henderson. He got a 15-yard penalty. That kind of, I wouldn't say it was detrimental to their game, but it was they had momentum and they could have scored. The game should have honestly been 21-7 at the end of half, but that's neither here nor there. Obviously, Quinshon Judkins, the Ole Miss transfer. I just think they have too much talent. It's going to be tough for Notre Dame to kind of hold on and survive. But you got to give props to Notre Dame. I mean, I thought they were dead in the water. They lost to Northern Illinois at home when they were minus 2,500 favorites to win a game, and they lost. And pretty much ever since, it was survive and advance. They won pretty much every single game out. They're not in a conference. I saw that a school gets awarded $20 million for making the national championship, and they just pocket $20 million, which is pretty cool. So I also saw that Marcus Freeman is getting like head coaching interest for certain teams, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm pretty sure you do, but Marcus Freeman is a Buckeye, so he might want y'all to win for all I know. But yeah, Riley Leonard cannot. I feel like he's not. He threw 2 interceptions in that game. I feel like if you guys are gifted 2 interceptions from Riley Leonard, those are going to turn into touchdowns. So Penn State was unable to capitalize off of the turnovers they were gifted. Instead, they just played Simon Says, and when Simon said throw an interception, Drew Aller was like, okay, I'll do the exact same thing that you're doing. And literally they got the ball at the end of the game. He throws an interception. Like, bro, my guy, what are we doing? He said that he was trying to throw the ball away. But I mean, I feel like the highlight for them were their running backs, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, and Tyler Warren, who's going to be he announced that he's entering the draft. They're tied in. He's one of the top picks in the draft. So Penn State, they're James Franklin. I don't really think that it was James Franklin's fault that they lost, but I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, Notre Dame they gotta dig deep and figure out a way to be able to throw the ball down the field. And I don't think that's going to be possible.
Well, Toddy, last week you said that you were picking Penn State because of Drew Aller being the better quarterback. And then he just, like you said, he was like, anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything like throwing picks better than you. Yeah. In just the most inopportune time. Riley Leonard didn't even play well in this game. And he even, as he's being interviewed after the game, he said, yeah, I didn't really do much. I didn't do my part. Yeah, he got evaluated for concussion and came back in. But if Riley Leonard has that same game against the Ohio State Buckeyes, it's going to be 42-10 as a final score. Just like we saw when Notre Dame last made it to a national championship game and they got stomped out by Alabama. And that was the Manti Te'o team. They got stomped out by Alabama. No surprise here. I'm picking the Ohio State Buckeyes. I got them by double digits. I don't think it's going to end up being 32 points like I just suggested. But if I had to put a number on it, I say Buckeyes 34-24. And simply put, I think that the dynamic duo of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson absolutely abused Notre Dame because Notre Dame, they have been relying on that defensive line. But if they just keep pounding the rock That's going to open the opportunities for Jeremiah Smith, who the Longhorns, their one objective was to shut down Jeremiah Smith. And congratulations, you did it. You still lost. And so to me, Will Howard has been playing a lot better and has been the guy that we've expected him to be and paid him to be now in this NIL era. He has been that guy since they lost to Michigan. And to all the Michigan fans, and my friend Keith included, thank you for that loss. We appreciate you because it's what motivated. Yeah, seriously. And it's crazy. And I'll wrap up with this. This is something that only I can relate to, just given the job that I'm in. But I'll just say this real quickly because I know we're getting short for time. But this Buckeyes season and their 2 losses, to me, are so reminiscent to what I saw with the Sonora High School football team. I got here mid-season, and Sonora was 6-0. Before I covered a game for them, the Friday before my first day, they played at Houston, who was a league rival. Houston was the reigning D5 section champions. They went on to win the D5 section again this year. But the point being, Sonora played at Houston. They lost by 1 point at Houston. And, that's the best loss you could ever have. The following week, Sonora went to Ripon High School. Ripon, they should have beat the brakes off of. Ripon beat them by double digits. And to me, that loss humbled Sonora so much so that they went on to win their first state championship in school history. And they needed that loss to be able to go win the ultimate prize. Just as Kevin said, the Buckeyes needed that loss to go on to do this. They might not have gotten past the Longhorns. They might not have gotten revenge against the Ducks. And they certainly would not have dominated the Ducks if not for that Michigan loss. So shout out to my friend Keith, and I talk about him primarily because he is the biggest pain in my ass and has been for the last year since Michigan won their national championship. Congratulations on your regular season win. What's the best way to end Michigan's national title reign? With the Buckeyes hoisting the trophy, Kevin. So who do you got winning and why?
I'm going to go Buckeyes, man. I'll make it 3-0. Just keep it short, sweet, and simple. Penn State had a chance to win this game. And Drew Allard, like Shaun mentioned, tried to throw the ball away and unfortunately threw a pick. This game, me and Toddy were going back and forth because I told him, I was like, man, they're doing it for Rudy. They're doing it for Rudy. He didn't believe me. And then Toddy sends me a Snapchat or a TikTok of Drew Allard on the yacht before the game. And I told Toddy, I said, they're going to fucking lose. And then they lost. Notre Dame has gotten 2 games that they shouldn't have won. They played Indiana first round, correct?
Yeah, they kind of
Indiana slapdick, Georgia no quarterback, slapdick, and then Drew Allard. You know, when you're playing a team that has no completions to the receivers, you got a good chance of winning. I think Ohio State's going to just cause hell for Riley Leonard. We saw him against Penn State's defense really nice. Abdul Carter, I was a casual. Dude's legit. You know, when you wear number 11 at Penn State, you rush the quarterback and you get to the quarterback.
He had one arm too.
Yeah, and Jeremiah Love is really, really good. Riley Leonard, this team, Marcus Freeman is going to get this team ready to play. And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and punched us in the mouth because I know there's a lot of Ohio State fans thinking that we're just going to dog walk this team. Marcus Freeman isn't going to let this happen. We barely beat them with Kyle McCord with basically the same team without with Shaun Junkins and Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
So I know it's a 10-point favorite. You know, this is the wrong time to be across the Buckeyes, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think we're going to see where that $20 million roster comes to play. You know, we're not going to be able to have guys like Denzel Burke get burnt over the top. We cannot have Riley Leonard turn into a quarterback. If he's going to kill us as a quarterback and then run the ball all over us, it's going to be hard. So I think Ryan Day is going to have this team ready. All these seniors that could have been in the NFL came back for a reason, and this is just going to be the cherry on top for this season. And I got the Ohio State Buckeyes reigning champs again, 10 years from the last time we did it.
And I'll close this segment just by saying that the entire reason why I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan is because of my grandpa Holko, who he was an Ohio State grad. And he went there way back in the 1940s after he served in the Navy. He came back home to Ohio, where he's from. He went to the Ohio State University, and that was his squad. And my parents, they split up when I was 5. My dad went to go live with his parents, my grandparents. And so for half the week when I was a kid, from age 5 to 13, I lived with my grandparents half the week. And I alternated weekends. And so every other weekend, on a Saturday, I was watching the Buckeyes with my grandpa. And I was too young to remember when they won the championship in 2002. So for so many years, I was just hoping to see Ohio State win a natty with my grandpa before he ended up passing away. And I got to watch that 2014 run with my grandpa, and to see Zeke run all over Alabama, and to see Ohio State absolutely stomp on Oregon and Marcus Mariota in the national championship game. And that's a memory I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life, because being someone who's born and raised in Sacramento, California, anytime I tell someone that I'm a Buckeyes fan, they just think I'm a bandwagon. But like, there's so much to it. And I'm going to be a Buckeyes fan for the rest of my life. Anytime I watch the Buckeyes, I think of my grandpa and I think of good memories. And I am just so grateful that I was able to watch a championship with him. And he's been gone for over 6 years now. And if the Buckeyes are able to do it again, like, I'll just think of my grandpa, and it'll just make me so happy. And Kevin, I'm glad that we've become friends too. So I have other Buckeye fan friends, because like, it can be lonely sometimes. There's so many people that just hate on the Buckeyes constantly. It is lonely at the top. And so hopefully the Buckeyes can finish the job and make Kevin and I very happy as we're closing things out on
Georgia TCU vibes. That's the vibe that I'm getting from this game.
Oh, I would love that.
Bro, Notre Dame would kill that TCU team.
Man, maybe.
Where's Max?
Well, I mean, hey, Quentin Johnson was catching the ball in college, so who knows?
Yeah, God. So,
has anyone seen Max Duggan since? I know that he.
I think he's on the Chargers.
That's the last thing I remembered of him, was that he was Chargers.
I couldn't tell you anything about him.
Well, you guys hear that music? It's time for the return of Shaun's Pop Quiz, as we'll get to this in 5 minutes or less as we get out of here. But current update on the scoreboard of Shaun's Pop Quiz: Jaevon has 16, Kevin has 12. And so we got 2 questions for you guys this week, 5 total answers. So 5 points can be picked up this week. Kevin, if you get all 5, then you're going to take the lead. We shall see what happens. We'll start it off by alternating, and then we'll do a free-for-all and go from there. As the Washington Commanders, it was well noted that the Commanders broke their playoff win drought. It had been 18 years since the Commanders had won a playoff game. There are 2 teams that currently still have, Kevin, I got you first, 2 teams that currently still have a longer active playoff win drought. And so, it's not active, but 2 teams that had a longer drought than the 18 years that it took the Commanders. So, Kevin, who are one of those 2 teams that had longer than an 18-year playoff win drought?
It's got to be the Jets, yeah?
No, that is actually incorrect, but that was a good guess. Toddy, back to you.
The Lions?
No, that is incorrect.
No, they won a game last year, Toddy.
Well, I thought they had one before that. Like, they had this.
So if it's not the Jets, do we get a division? Or are you going to make us keep guessing for a while?
Well, hold on. I'm looking at this, and I got this from CBS Sports, and I just screenshot it, and I was like, all right, that's pop quiz material. I'm looking at this. This doesn't really make sense to me. So we might have to just scratch this one completely, and I apologize for not doing my due diligence beforehand. But, yeah, we're just going to scratch it.
Browns.
So, no, it had the Raiders and the Dolphins, 23 and 22. But I remember that the Raiders
won a game with Tua?
Playoff game? No. They just
Yeah, they made the playoff. Lost to the Chiefs. They lost to
Bills. That year they had Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, exactly.
The Raiders have won a game in the past 22 years.
Well, that's what I thought about.
They went with Carr. Carr took them. Remember when they played the Bengals and they lost?
Is that the only time they win it?
No, they
I
went
thought-
a couple years before that when he like broke his back. He was like MVP.
Exactly, and Connor Cook was out there.
Yeah.
And didn't
They
they
won
beat the Texans? Didn't they win that, or they
No,
lost?
I think they lost.
Okay, they lost. Okay,
Shaun
well,
was good. That's when Deshaun was nice.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, I apologize to CBS Sports. So, all right, well, they had it. I just questioned it, and I just should have stuck with it.
Remember that was the year when they played the Texans. They beat the Texans, and the Texans beat Josh Allen in the divisional. Remember Deshaun?
Yes, yeah.
All that resurfaced where he got like spun out and he throws the pass. It was like on third down.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a great memory, Toddy.
Yeah, well, good thing.
All right, well,
you do that.
Man, right? Well, I apologize to CBS Sports for doubting them. So the Dolphins currently have a 23. This is longest active droughts without a playoff win. Dolphins have 23 years. The Raiders have 22, dating back to 2002 when the Raiders made the Super Bowl. So I apologize to CBS Sports for doubting them. But hey, this next one is actually a good one, and I promise. Jaden Daniels. He is one of 4 rookie quarterbacks. And the man Mako has made an appearance. Hello, my friend. I'll see you at your birthday party next month. So, Jaden Daniels is one of 4 rookie quarterbacks, Mako, that have ever won a playoff game on the road in NFL history. Who was one of the other 3 guys that won a road playoff game as a rookie?
So it's my turn, right? Since we went just going off the last game.
Yep.
Your guys' guy, Brock Purdy, no?
No, incorrect.
He wasn't a rookie?
Well,
Mark
he didn't win on
Sanchez.
the road. He didn't win. Ding, ding, ding. Mark Sanchez.
Let's go,
is correct.
baby.
I didn't hear the
Brock-
question right. Is it not just one game?
No, it's it was winning on the road. It was winning on the road.
Gotcha.
Brock Purdy didn't,
Gotcha.
Brock Purdy didn't win on the road.
Gotcha. Oh, shit. That's gonna make
The
it even harder.
Sanchez is correct, Toddy. So now there 2 more answers remaining. So Toddy, go ahead.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Nope, that is incorrect, but that's a
Damn.
good guess. The Steelers were so good that year that they had home playoff games.
That's right.
CJ won them at home last year. Yeah, they didn't go to Cleveland, did they?
Yeah, he won at home.
Rookie?
Damn.
I don't know.
Rookie quarterbacks that have won a road playoff game. Jaden
Son, you know?
Daniels.
Son, do you know? You weren't alive. When you were swimming in there, did you hear anything?
I'm trying to think. Who got it?
Bruh.
So I will just say both guys that are on this list and are remaining are Super Bowl champions.
Kurt Warner?
No.
Oh, that's a tough one.
One is from
Would
the
we
AFC.
know these guys, though?
One is from the AFC North. The other one's from the NFC West.
Patrick Mahomes?
Nope.
Damn.
Because remember, Mahomes started in his second year.
Dude, I'm cooked. I have no idea.
You said NFC North? Lamar Jackson?
AFC North, and it's not Lamar Jackson. AFC North,
Baker
NFC
Mayfield.
West. Nope.
Damn. I don't know.
Oh, shit. Jordan? No, that wasn't Jordan Love's rookie year. That was his first year starting.
No. So think back to about 2008
Gosh.
and about 2012. Both of these guys are still in the NFL right now.
Oh, that means they're old.
Yes.
No.
One of them was a starting quarterback this year after coming in from injury.
Jameis Winston?
No.
I don't know.
All right. Do we give up? Should we get out of here?
I'm cooked. Make
Joe Flacco
Oh.
and Russell Wilson.
Russ did Legion of Boom. Tough.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go. Toddy picks up a point. Forgive me for ruining the other question, but for the sake of time, it was probably meant to be. And as Mako is letting the audience know, it's time to go. So thank you all for tuning in for episode number 131 of Stats Over Politics. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. If you enjoy the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats for Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. If you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars, as we really appreciate it. You guys have been tuned in to episode number 131 of Stats Over Politics. For my guys, Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, and Kaz Johnson, I'm your host, Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next Monday on another episode, 7 p.m. next Monday on another episode of Stats Over Politics. Peace out.